Hello again, YouTube. It's Patrissimo. I want to talk a little bit more about Mary. The accusation of Catholics deifying Mary is all over the internet. I recently came across a website that quoted Tim LaHaye, where LaHaye was actually claiming that, quote, millions of Catholics have petitioned the Vatican, to make Mary a member of the Trinity. This is just stupid is what it is. I can't think of a more accurate way to put it. Pretty irresponsible too. What's really going on is not that Catholics exalt Mary too high. The problem is Protestants have too low of a view of God. And so it makes Mary appear to be too high then, if God is lowered. If you have an earthly king, and he's very powerful, okay? And let's say he's pleased with one of his subjects, maybe the prince or something, and he decides to give that subject half of his kingdom. Okay, so this king can now potentially be threatened by this prince, and because no matter how powerful the king is, he's still finite. There's still a measure to his power. So the more of it he gives away, the less of it he has, and the more easily he can be threatened. Okay. So when Catholics, talk about how God has exalted Mary and given her, certain graces and privileges and whatnot, Protestants in a very knee-jerk fashion, think that that's giving Mary too much credit, exalting her too high. To me, this betrays a finite God in their system. They're really implying that their God is really more like where Catholics would place Mary or the angels on the scale of being. Very powerful, much higher than us, and yet still finite. So I think that's what's happening in Protestantism, and I think there are a lot of reasons for this, and I hope I get a chance to discuss some as I go here on YouTube. Still learning how to do this YouTube thing, but it's a lot of fun, I'll tell you that, and it sure beats television, which to me now seems so last millennium. So now what evidence do I have that Protestants are placing God too low, thus making Mary, the Catholic Mary, appear too high? Because Protestants usually, especially the more the sophisticated Protestants, or the ones that have a closer connection to the Reformation, they're usually pretty strong on the doctrine of God and His attributes, and they usually agree with the Catholic Church on that. But that's not enough, because God is absolutely simple, and because of this, His being, knowledge, will, and operation are all one, identical, just viewed under different aspects. So if you alter God's being, knowledge, will, or operation, you've altered the God. You've altered God. Now, if God is infinite, then the only way to alter Him is to make Him finite. Now, Protestants most certainly alter God's knowledge, will, and operations. For example, the Baptist says that that it's not a biblical teaching to baptize infants. Nor is anyone saved through baptism. And this is contrary to the Catholic teaching. Now, logically, we can't be talking about the same two gods here. Either God approves of infant baptism and of the doctrine that baptism saves you, or He doesn't. Can't be the same God. So all throughout history, if it's one God, all the babies getting baptized are being saved. If it's the other God, all the babies throughout history who are being baptized are not necessarily being saved, and God is displeased with those parents that are doing that. Whereas in the other case, God would be pleased. So His will and knowledge and operation are different. And of course, baptism is just one doctrine where Protestants disagree with Catholics. There are many, as most of us know. Often Protestants use self-defeating arguments. In fact, I think all Protestant arguments against Catholicism always end up proving too much for the Protestant. One example is, I hear this argument a lot, that the Catholic doctrine of transubstantiation is basically a denial of the incarnation because it destroys Christ's true humanity. Because supposedly the doctrine of transubstantiation would mean that Christ's humanity would have to have the attribute of omnipresence. Because it's simultaneously present on all these different altars throughout the world. Christ